Welcome to Judicial Dollars and Cents, brought to you by Anders Virtual CFO Services team from all across the United States. I'm John Scott, and in each episode, we'll shine a light on the financial side of the legal world, turning law firm numbers into impact-driven stories. From taxes and profitability to practice growth and leadership, we sit down with law firm innovators who are shaping the future of the profession. Let's dive in, right here on Judicial Dollars and Cents. Welcome back to Judicial Dollars and Cents. We're coming to you live from the PILMMA Super Summit in San Antonio, Texas, and my guest right now is Greg Crabtree. We're very honored to have Greg, as he was the opening speaker at the PILMMA Super Summit. Greg, tell me about what you do.
Yeah, so as I was explaining, we have developed an approach that I would refer to it as a financial analysis system that we believe works for all entrepreneurial businesses, every industry, every country, and so with that, we call it simple numbers. And it was based on my desire to evolve from being a traditional accountant. I started my practice in 1986. We did everything that all you do as a CPA firm, but I always felt like we were missing the mark. And through, various, interactions with entrepreneurs, we started in the early 2000s. We changed our focus to be purely entrepreneurial focused. And as I started to develop our beliefs about what should be rather than what we were given in accounting school and the accounting profession, I started studying data. And so the one thing as a private accountant that I don't have access to is the most numbers, straight talk, big profits, that was released in 2011, and was really, a fresh look at, well, if you're running a business, what should you look at? And, the first chapter of the first book was about the distortions that entrepreneurs create in their data by not taking a market-based wage. Yes, there's, pissant mindset about take a low salary and take more in dividends and all that. And it just distorts the data if you're a smaller business. Now, once you get to be 10, 20 million, it's less of a distortion. But even then, you're forced in, doing it because, you don't want to be the CEO making $200. You got executives on your house. And so you get forced into doing it as you get bigger. And so my passion was helping these, $1 million, well, really startup to on up, helping businesses break through and getting, the first step is getting, truth in data. But truth in data is not generally accepted accounting principles. I get in trouble with my peers in the profession, but I'll tell you, as a practicing CPA, generally accepted accounting principles is more designed to hide the truth than illuminate it. And so really, you got to come back and reset and say, okay, we'll fix the compensation piece, and we're looking at truth. You might look at some other things like, I'm fine with, even if you go buy a delivery truck for your side business, and you 100% finance it. Well, just book the payment as an expense. That makes more economic sense than, let's book the asset, let's book the debt, let's book monthly depreciation, and then take every payment and split it between principal and interest. Well, if you just expense the monthly payment, for economic purposes, and do gain or loss at the end of get rid of the truck, get to the same number.
Understood.
And that's my argument with, yes, I get it that, yes, we need generally accepted accounting principles, international financial reporting standards for consistency of reporting for third parties. I don't give two hoots about the third party.
Right.
I'm trying to help the people making money than the entrepreneur. And I may write one more book that would be what accounting should have been, because in today's world of data, we've got the tool in our hands, and we do this with our analysis models now. I can take the same set of data and give you a GAAP accrual presentation for a third party. I can give you data to file a tax return, but I can give you an economic basis of accounting to run your business off of.
I love it. And I love your attention to data, because that's exactly what we do. And our tagline, our mantra is we're trying to change the way people think about accounting, because you're so right.
Yeah,
the historical accountant, your father's accountant, was historical in nature. They told you what happened.
Yeah.
We want to be able to tell you what's going to happen. And the only way you can do that is by paying attention to the data.
Well, and the next thing then that came up, after we clear that distortion, the next thing is revenue is not the thing we aim at. We aim the true economic top line of every business is gross margin, defined as revenue minus cost of goods sold that's not labor. So in simple numbers philosophy, we never mix labor with something that's not labor. So labor is the only cost that comes to work every day with an attitude. It's got some good days and it's got some bad days. And so, and the thing I told the group this morning, the central DNA of every business is how well do you leverage labor, not just direct labor, but management labor as well. And so we're known for a concept that we created. And if you ever hear somebody say LER, labor efficiency ratio, and that's what it stands for, you know that they've read simple numbers, because that's our metric of looking at. We look at, there's signatures in business that's just phenomenal of how many businesses operate around one number. And that number is 2. 80% of the businesses need $2 of gross margin for every dollar of labor to hit their profit target that it's the profit target that we set, that we believe is a target. And that is 20% of profit to gross margin, not profit to revenue, profit to gross margin. And when you target that, 80% of the businesses have to be a 2. Now, the people that need to be higher are people that disproportionately spend more money on marketing, or disproportionately have facilities cost of, like a distributor needs to be a 2.5 because they're holding inventory and they've got inventory management, warehousing costs, and all those kind of things. Retail stores need to be a 2.5 because they have a disproportionate of infrastructure costs, the labor in that retail. Rest 2.5. And the rest of them, it's a 2. Now, the power of that concept is this. We're sitting here middle of May, and okay, well, June is around the corner. Well, today, every business is listening to this. I can ask them, well, how much labor are you going to spend in June? You know that number around every day. Well, take that number times 2. And the practical accelerator classes for the entrepreneur organization for several cities. And I was a couple of years ago in Connecticut, and we had a marketing firm that was struggling. And so we talked about this 2 LER concept. And I said, okay, here's the deal. All right, next month's coming. How much labor are you going to spend? $50,000. Great. 50,000 times 2 is what? 100,000. Okay. Is any of the 100,000 going to be done by a subcontractor that you don't get all of that 100? We got to talk about that. And said, no. Yeah, you got to pull it out. But no, she was going to do all in-house. Okay, great. Here's the first question. Have you sold enough? She said, yes. Good. Here's the next critical question. Can you do it? She said, yes, but. Okay, what's the but? And she said, well, we've already been paid for some work that, that we're behind on and hadn't done, and that's getting in the way. She says, okay, here's the answer to your problem, and you're not going to like it, but there is only one answer. Between the hours of 8 and 5 every day of the month, you got to work on the new stuff for the 100,000 and prove to your team that they can get that 8 to 5. And before 8 and after 5, they work to catch up. And once you get caught up and once you know that standard, you start, think of this power of this concept. You start the first day of the month knowing what your perfect target is that you got to go produce, and you got 4 weeks to do it. Now, if you're a monthly recurring revenue business like an IT MSP, or you got retainer clients, you fill up your bucket, but every one of those monthly recurring revenue businesses and retainer businesses have a gap. And so I know that gap on the first day of the month,
right?
And I got 4 weeks to solve it.
Yep.
And, and one of my Gregisms that I'm known for is a man who aims at nothing hits it with amazing accuracy. Yeah, and so these are the kind of things that concepts that we work with all different businesses. I mean, like I said, we work with a lot of clients that use somebody like you guys would be a virtual CFO. That's not what we do. We're not in the day to day. We're conceptual guiders of business models, looking at, yes, there is a detail. We help people do quick forecasting, but if you want to dive into the details, I mean, that's we can do it. We choose not to. We choose to stay at the strategic financial analysis level.
So you come in and help assess the situation and then design a solution for it and hand it off.
It is. Also, one of the things, because the simple number structure works for every business, every industry, every country, we do a lot of data aggregation. And so one of the things that people like to connect with us for our ongoing services in the monthly call is we have a 100 company model that has 1.4 billion of revenue. Now, keep in mind, I'm just a chicken farmer from Alabama. So I want to give you that disclaimer. I'm not a statistician. I'm not an economist, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night. And so, I mean, this model has been magical because, I mean, the federal government has no insight to private companies.
They try.
But no, they don't have access. 7% of U.S. GDP is by private companies. I mean, they're just making up economic.
Yeah.
Our model is telling us that we had double-digit growth, real from 2013 through 2008. We had single-digit growth, 8% in 2019 before COVID, because of the baby boom generation exiting. COVID threw everybody off the trail. You had massive fake growth in 21 and 22 because of stimulus of PPP and ERC. It's January of 23. Our model says we've been running at about 8% inflation consistently and negative 1% GDP. And when I say that to people, they go, yeah, that's how it feels. Now, is that bad? No, not necessarily. I mean, a flat, we've been so drunk on economic growth, we've forgotten that, having a stable, consistent economy is not necessarily a bad thing if you're good at executing. And this economy, this is the first time in 25 years that I've seen this, that the best execution businesses are finally getting rewarded and separating from the pack. And if you're a good executor, you love this economy because you're gaining market share, not gaining growth of market. And we're going to see probably 20 to 30% of exiting of number of competitors in most marketplaces because they just can't compete anymore. And the other thing that we're seeing that's surprising, we're seeing a significant increase in operating expenses, non-labor operating expenses for the 10 million and under companies compared to their peers at 10 million and over. It's almost like it's almost like a 10 to 12% differential. And so our theme for our clients has been bring back Scrappy. I mean, bring back Scrappy. We've got to recover a scrappiness about an entrepreneur of, people and tools and, we're gonna invest in this. And yes, you got to be investing in AI, but you can't invest in it and go hire an expensive consultant to go do it for you. You've got to be scrappy and go learn it and do it yourself. And that's our clients that had the greatest success with AI is self-implementation.
When I think a slowdown and disruption will bring out the scrappiness in some people. In St. Louis, Boeing was a big employer, and Boeing still has a presence in St. Louis.
Yeah.
They shifted to Seattle,
right,
and it jettisoned many of these really skilled people who went out and created businesses.
Right.
And we all thought Boeing leaving would devastate St. Louis, and it did for a short period of time.
For a short period.
But all these small businesses popped up because you had all these really talented engineers who came out and said, I know how to do this.
That's right.
And so I think that some disruption in the economy will help. I follow a group called ITR Economics, and I know you said you're not a statistician. They've been consistently predicting really a black swan depression event in the early 2030s. And it has to do with a lot of what you said about the boomers and the population decline.
Yeah. If you follow like Peter Zine's work, on population demographics, The only federal government official that I've been highly critical of, and I've said that I've never heard any good statement out of his mouth except his last statement was Jerome Powell. And Jerome Powell, in his final statement as Fed chair, acknowledged that I hope that as the workforce declines with aging population and no net new population coming in, and the rise of productivity of AI, I hope that they occur at the same rate.
And compensate for
compensate.
Right.
Good luck with that. They're not going to happen that way. And I do agree somewhat with ITR's analysis that there is potential for that event in the early 2030s, but I believe that now that we've taken growth out of the equation, we're seeing the economy in a clearer light right now. And as I said, you didn't have to be good in the last 20 years to run a profitable business. You just had to be available.
Now, show up. That was
you
it.
Just show up. Now you got to be good. And I love it because I appreciate the hell out of my clients that are great executors. They do the right things. They build culture in their business. But there again, in the last 20 years, we had a lot of times that they were saying, why am I doing this? Because this yo-ho competitor down the street is not doing any of it, and they're making more money than me. And now that's changed. Yeah.
Greg, this has been enlightening. I appreciate it. Before we wrap up, I'm going to ask you kind of an off-the-wall question. You're from Huntsville, Alabama, chicken farmer.
Yep.
Tuscaloosa or?
Absolutely Tuscaloosa. So Roll Tide, graduated from Alabama in '78. And so I got to see in my lifetime. Bear Bryant was the coach when I was in school. Got to see Nick Saban. I hope we give Kalen DeBoer a chance.
Well, thank you so much, Greg. Hey, if folks want to get a hold of you or your company, how can they do that?
I'm probably the easiest person to find in the world. So there's not too many Greg Crabtrees out there. And if you Google Greg Crabtree or Simple Numbers, you will find us easily, or use your favorite AI. All the AI tools have read both of my books. And so I've had clients build Greg Crabtree bots to ask questions of. So if you just search on those, you'll find me.
Well, thank you, Greg. And thank you all for joining us on Judicial Dollars and Cents. We'll see you next time.
Good deal. Appreciate
it. Thanks for joining us on Judicial Dollars and Cents, presented by Anders Virtual CFO Services. If you found value in today's conversation, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. To learn more about how Anders helps law firms strengthen their financial foundations and drive growth, visit anderscpa.com. Until next time, keep making smart decisions that make perfect sense.